Sam. Okay, I'll say that again. Thank you, Sam. So it's on the recording. So, morning, everyone. Just 1 second while I share my screen. Is that showing okay, Mark? It's on the proper, it's not on presenter view, is it?
It's on presenter view, Carl.
How's that now?
It's better.
Okay, 1 second. So yeah, so good morning, everyone. Welcome. Just delighted to have an opportunity to talk to you today about some of the stuff that's happening with us at Manchester Metropolitan University. And delighted to have my colleague Mark Chester on the call as well from our Prince City facility, as well as Claire Scott from Made Smarter. And we work very closely with Made Smarter, have done over the last number of years. And I suppose part of what I wanted to try to do today, kind of the key message really is, that we want to engage with industry and we want to add value where we can. We also want our students to have opportunities to get an industrial experience during their time at the university, but that has to work both ways. But we want to make sure then that our students are coming out with the skill sets that industry is looking for. So part of what I'll try to do today is talk about some of the different activities happening across the university and the different ways that we engage with companies. And hopefully, some of that might spark some ideas or opportunities or different discussions that we might be able to have going into the future. Just a bit about myself. So I've been at Manchester Met for about coming up this August, about 3 years. Prior to that, I was at University of Manchester for a number of years. But in the past, I have worked for a large automotive company, a large multinational on diesel fuel injectors, working on the manufacturing side of things. Spent about 4 or 5 years working in research and development around manufacturing process research and development. But then, very often was going to production sites and very often getting the feedback from the shop floor that it's relatively easy to do stuff in the lab, but the challenges of a production environment are very different. So I switched to the kind of production side of things for about another 4 or 5 years, working on diesel common rail pumps. Was involved in the installation of a new production line in a facility in Barcelona, and the challenges related to that, and the challenges we had around gathering data from those processes on the shop floor, collating all of that, and understanding how we address those, and which challenges we needed to address. But then after a while, I kind of stepped away from that and started up working for myself for a number of years, probably 6 or 7 years. My own kind of startup, moved back to Ireland, and I suppose saw the other side of being a small organization or a small company, and the challenges related to that. Before an opportunity came around to come into the academic side of things. So hopefully I've got a bit of an understanding of the challenges on both sides. So just thought I'd put that there as a bit of context to myself. So my role at Manchester Met is to lead on Industry 4, and I'm not really going to get into too much around what Industry 4 is, because I think everyone's probably heard a lot about the term Industry 4. So I'll try and just focus on some of the stuff that we're doing around that. And as I kind of mentioned at the start, one of the things that I'm keen on and the university's keen on is bridging that skills gap. And the way we need to do that is have the conversations with industry and engage with industry. And I suppose one of the things I want to try and get across is that our doors are open. We want to engage. We want to understand where some of those challenges are. So one of the things I think about maybe today is some of those key challenges that you have in your business at the moment, and not necessarily just a manufacturing challenge, but some of the core issues that the business is facing at the moment. And we may be able to see if there are activities happening across the university where there might be an opportunity to help or support that. So with Industry 4, there's kind of 9 pillars that are kind of assigned to Industry 4 that Boston Consulting Group came up with quite a number of years ago. And when I, they're listed down on the side here, but when I look across the university, we have activities happening that kind of map across to these. So Cyber Foundry, you may have heard of. It's a funded project supporting SMEs around cybersecurity issues. We have an Advanced Materials and Surface Engineering Research Center. So again, that supports some of the activities around additive manufacturing and some of the activities going on there and the type of materials that we're dealing with. They had quite a lot of success as well in that area around kind of food packaging as well. So Fashion Institute is an interesting one. So we have the Manchester Fashion Institute at Manchester Met. We're seeing a lot of collaboration. They sit in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, but we're seeing a lot of collaboration between them and where I sit in the Faculty of Science and Engineering within the Department of Engineering. And the aspects of Industry 4 around kind of personalization and customization really feeds into kind of the fashion sector and some of the challenges there. So we're seeing a lot of collaboration between our Print City facility that Mark will talk about later on, and the Fashion Institute and engineering and smart textiles and things like that. Within our business school, we've got a group focused on operations, technology, events, and hospitality as well. And some of the expertise within that is around supply chains, digital supply chains, and solutions around kind of business models. We have the Center for Advanced Computational Science, which very much kind of houses our expertise in kind of big data analytics, artificial intelligence, and our AI Foundry has a lot of, the center has a lot of input into our AI Foundry. We have the Fuel Cell Innovation Center, which you may have heard of. There's a lot of focus around hydrogen fuel cell technology. And again, it's that link to kind of sustainability and how, as we kind of move towards digitalization, being more efficient, the sustainability aspect is key in the circular economy. Institute of Coding is another area that we have around kind of software development and things like that. We have the Future Economies Research Center, because again, with some of the projects we're looking at, it's helpful to be able to speak to some of the economists and to look into what the impact will be from that perspective. And then we have our Print City facility as well. So when we start looking at these, there are elements across the university that starts to address some of those 9 pillars of Industry 4. So now, as I said, one of the key things for me is this engagement with industry, and so I chair the Industrial Advisory Board in the Department of Engineering, and it's something that a university has to have, is an Industrial Advisory Board as part of the accreditation. But one thing I wanted to do when I took over the chair of this was to get a mix of stakeholders involved, to get a real focus on an area or a topic rather than it being more of or feeling more like an audit when companies are coming into us. I wanted it to be more of a collaborative effort where we work together to, either on the area of teaching and the kind of content we're teaching, but also we've got a real focus at the moment around kind of industrial experience for our students. And back in January of this year, we ran something in early January called Employability Week or Future Me for the students. And one of the things we're trying to do is to get the students to, the core technical thing is one aspect that they should come out with their degree, and we won't compromise on that. But we see the other things that students might get asked at interview stage around the other kind of skills that employers might be looking for. We want to help the students develop those kind of skills. So for the week at the start of January, we put a call out back in November to the advisory board members to get involved. So we ran an event where we had over 15 companies involved and kind of 75 sessions over the week. And it involved students from our kind of first years through to master students kind of and through to our third and fourth years, working together on challenges set by the companies. And there were kind of the challenge was set on Monday, and the students had 24 hours to work in groups to pitch back to the companies the following day. And these are students that hadn't met each other before. Obviously, with lockdown, it was all done online, and the issues and challenges that they had of trying to collaborate and communicate on these kind of challenges. So it was. I think there was a number of key things that came out of that. One for, I suppose, my academic colleagues was seeing the willingness and the how industry wanted to engage and wanted to work with the students. I suppose the positive feedback we got on what the work that the students delivered, but also running something like this online in a digital format meant that we were able to have 15 companies involved, all the parallel sessions running. Had we tried to do that on site, would have been logistically very difficult, and to get that number of people kind of involved and to give up their time would have been a much more time intensive activity. And the week was opened by Carl Ennis from Siemens, and I've just taken a snippet of what he said in his opening address to the students, and it really resonated with me.
Give the best day's work that you can, and absolutely don't leave anything on the sideline. Absolutely give it. And by the way, if you're not enthusiastic about the role that you're doing, such that you want to give it your best, go and do something else, because life's too short, right? So this isn't, really give it your best. When you do that, you will be noticed, right? People see that. They see people who deliver on their promises, who do excellent quality work, and they get opportunities asked. And then my second guidance is, when you get those opportunities, grasp them. Because even if you don't think you can do that, somebody else thinks you can, and they're probably right.
And this point around opportunity and, I suppose, confidence for our students is key. And I think the more they get to engage with industry and see what what type of roles and what it's like in the work environment will help with that confidence. And there was an interesting story that week that one of the students was a truck driver part-time. On the second day, when they had to feed back their pitches, he was actually working, so he pulled over his truck, parked at the side of the road, and gave his presentation. And the company was really impressed with I suppose going that step further. And I think they followed up with him around asking for his CV and opportunities. So so I suppose an example of getting involved and echoing back to what Carl Ennis had said at the start of the week. So one call out really would be if you're interested in getting involved with our advisory board, feel free to get in touch, and be delighted to have you on board. Some of the activities we're looking at is collaboration around getting out to high schools, and I suppose highlighting the opportunities around a kind of an engineering career and things like that, but also the possibility of putting projects in place that students could work on for you and stuff like that. So yeah, please feel free to get in touch around that. One of the things that we've developed over the last number of years as well is a collaboration with Siemens and Festo around our MSc courses, but that's kind of filtering out to some of the other courses that we run as well. But we've kind of revamped our MSc offering with a focus on Industry 4 and digitalization. So we've got an MSc in Engineering Smart Systems, an MSc in Project Management, and an MSc in Industrial Digitalization. And I'll refer to Mark again, who's speaking later, but Mark was on one of our first cohort on the MSc in Industrial Digitalization, and hopefully a real testament to what happens on that course. But what we're one of the kind of first 5 universities to collaborate with Siemens around something called Connected Curriculum. I'm just going to play this video that'll give you a bit of an insight into what the Connected Curriculum is about.
Today sees us enter the 4th iteration of the Industrial Revolution, a period where physical objects seamlessly integrate into information networks around the world. AI, robotics, connected systems, and cloud-based platforms are transforming the industry in the same way that the very first machines revolutionized early manufacturing. Businesses are breaking down silos and seeing their businesses as complex systems where data, tools, and understanding run through all operations, from the supply chain to the wider user community. Those who work with physical products, be that design, manufacturing, installation, or commissioning, are shifting the way they work to suit this new, more complex and integrated landscape. Of course, new technology only makes sense when you have people who can make it work. Fortunately, the UK is home to world-class universities, many of which have produced leading innovators in critical disciplines. To make this a success, we need to bring academia and industry together so that students can learn in an immersive, collaborative way that sets them up for their future career. Take Emily, for instance. She's a talented undergraduate who has her sights set on a first-class degree and a career in engineering. She attends all her lectures and aces her projects. Her skills are second to none. Yet she is still unsure of how to put this theory into practice. How could leaders in education and industry help maximize Emily's university experience? We think connected curriculum is the answer. New technologies are transforming the way engineers work at an incredible rate. And while this is vastly beneficial to the industry, it means that graduates may find it challenging to hit the ground running when they step into the working world. Why? Because evolution is happening so fast, it means that learning materials need to be continuously updated in order to contextualize them. For leaders in education and industry, this is becoming a growing concern. With around 22,000 fewer engineers taking courses in the UK every year, and an increasingly competitive global market for talent, engineering is at a crossroads. Connected curriculum merges industrial practices with learning materials. Here, institutions are given the freedom to share and tailor industry tools, resources, and course materials to their teaching style. Industrial hardware and software are brought together in an off-the-shelf bundle that includes simulation environments, curriculum examples, case studies, and real-life problem-solving tutorials. This enables academia to become more creative, flexible, and collaborative. It also gives universities the edge when it comes to making the most of emerging technologies and innovations. The benefits for the education sector are clear. A stronger offer on employability, support for using the latest technologies, an open door for a closer partnership with industry, and a shared learning environment where institutions and academics can evolve with industrial innovation. Industry 4.0 is changing everything about the way we work. Connected curriculum makes sure education doesn't get left behind. Are you ready to show the next generation of engineers the industry of tomorrow? To find out more about connected curriculum, or to see how Siemens is dedicated to helping enrich teaching and learning, take a look at siemens.co.uk/education.
So this is we're still developing the collaboration around this and how things will work, but we're starting to embed some of content into our units, and I think it's important to point out that where it works and makes sense to take some of that, we take it in, but in other areas then there are maybe alternative software that can be used and things like that. So it's not just a Siemens course in that sense, and it's I suppose the community we're building up as well with the other universities involved and industry. We're starting to kind of share experience and learnings around that. And one of the things I wanted to share was an interesting project that's come out of this in the last year. So the Siemens played a part in the UK Ventilator Challenge, played a big part in that last year. And I think it may have been last June or July, I spotted a blog from one of the apprentices at Siemens around what they did with the ventilator challenge, how they got involved, and some of the learnings and the experience that they had from that. And then within the university, and because of the connection with Siemens, we started looking at was there something we could do from that ventilator challenge, and the fact that we had access to some of the software that was used by the engineers and apprentices in Siemens. Could we take something from that and embed it in our course, and to try and recreate that challenge for our students. So out of that, colleague Aris Alexoulis took on board kind of running this as part of a unit for our second years, and through something called professional design and practice. So it's a unit that is multidisciplinary in nature, happens in the second year. So we bring electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and design engineers together, and they work in multidisciplinary teams. And there were a number of most of the projects are linked to industry in some way, and the Siemens one proved quite popular actually, and we had a number of groups of students who were given a similar challenge to what the guys at Siemens faced last year. Because of the pandemic, we switched to an online learning model and a block teaching method or approach as well. So rather than units being delivered over, say from October till May, individual units were delivered in kind of 6-week blocks, so quite focused and intensive. So this unit as well, was delivered in that way. So the students had 6 weeks to work on this problem, and the challenge was based around as I said, what the guys at or the UK Ventilator Challenge faced last year. So that target of getting from 10 ventilators a week up to 10,000 within a 12-week time period. They were given 2 potential locations where kind of large factory layouts or large halls that they could put their production line in. They had to think about costs. They were given access to Siemens Technomatics software, so they were able to kind of lay out the factory floor, look at individual stations and look at the cycle time required for each of the individual steps. We picked up an open source ventilator that they could use because there were IP issues related to the ventilator that was used in the actual UK ventilator challenge. And I suppose one of the interesting things of this is that things can move quite slowly in large organizations at times, but this is a real example of something that happened last April, May time, lifted, worked between Siemens and our academic team, and then installed in a unit in late February this year. The students had no prior experience of working with Technomatics, but a lot of the content was there with online tutorials and things like that. And within a matter of weeks, they were quite proficient in being able to lay out the factory floor, look at different options around how they reach those kind of the target of 10,000 ventilators in 12 weeks. And I suppose part of the, and then you've got the students then coming up with a project that is relevant and up to date, so they're really engaged. It's with an industrial partner and apprentices and engineers who were really engaged in the project that our students could speak to. The challenge felt real, and they're developing skills that industry will be looking for around digital twins or plant simulation, shop floor layout, and things like that. And some of the student groups presented back to our industrial advisory board in a couple of weeks ago, and the opportunity again for them to develop those skills. But what was really interesting was the enthusiasm from some of the students now to maybe pursue a career around production and manufacturing. They got a deeper insight into what that's like, and this gives a bit of an idea of what the kind of shop floor layout might look like and things like that. So, and I suppose the kind of opportunity there is that we worked with a number of different companies on challenges like that. So I think there are opportunities to engage with us around things like this, or setting challenges like that. They can be group projects. I suppose the other thing to highlight is some of these students have never actually physically met, so all of this was done over Teams and from their bedrooms and things like that as well. So the challenges related to that, and I think there are opportunities as well around kind of final year projects, MSc projects, to engage with us as well. We also have, which might be of interest to some of the people on the call, Cyber Foundry, which is focused on cybersecurity, and that's a program that supports SMEs in the region around cybersecurity issues. There's the AI Foundry as well, which runs in a similar model. These are fully funded programs, and the AI Foundry obviously focused on artificial intelligence. Print City Network, which Mark will touch on later, and the Fuel Cell Innovation Center. The funding for that program has just come to an end, but it's become self-sustaining now. So there are opportunities to engage with the university in that side. One of the other things is that it's not. We see digitalization not just as a manufacturing or engineering thing. As I mentioned, the Fashion Institute, the business school, we see the digitalization having a reach in all aspects of our lives, and this is a project that we're putting together, which involves some colleagues from our kind of health sciences side of things. We've got computer scientists, we've got some of our engineers, we've got people in the business school. So just play the short video.
Live 4.0 is an ambitious project which brings together an interdisciplinary group of researchers, stakeholders, GPs and patients with two streams of work. One stream being to create an AI algorithm to better predict the risk of cardiovascular disease, and the other stream being working with those stakeholders, GPs and patients, to develop a way for this to be used in practice and make the most difference.
Medical practitioners are guided by risk algorithm for CVD prediction, mainly based on limited variables across a homogeneous population, which do not assess the impact of an individual patient's unique set of risk factors.
This is a really exciting project that's bringing together experts from across the university, experts in the Northern Care Alliance, the Salford CCG and patient representatives, where we'll look at digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, harnessing data that exists, historical data that exists around cardiovascular disease.
The Salford data set is a really important data set. It spans 18 to 20 years worth of data from the GPs, but also from hospitals. And as such, it's fairly unique within the UK. There's only a couple of other places like it. But we believe that it holds great promise because within that data set, there are likely to be novel signatures that indicate someone's at risk of a heart attack.
Working with GPs, healthcare professionals and patients throughout the project is absolutely central to what we're trying to do. It's really important that we don't create something in isolation and that it's usable and practical for those around us.
I think it's really important that people get involved in these kind of opportunities because they really do have the chance to make a difference. And I think by getting people involved in these kind of activities, then they can make suggestions, they can get their thoughts and their ideas heard and ultimately make a difference to the outcomes of that research.
For the future of the project, I hope that we can create a sustainable group of both academics, stakeholders, patients and GPs to create a real difference and go forward with this project and beyond.
The project has the potential to result in an extension of healthy life expectancy for many individuals. This will allow people to work and contribute to society for longer. It will reduce the burden on the NHS and will enable people to spend more quality time with their loved ones.
Okay, so I hope that gives, I suppose, where we see the wider breadth of where I suppose digitalization can have an impact as well. I'm just conscious of time, so I'll just another couple of slides. The other ways of kind of engaging with us as well around knowledge transfer partnerships, which is kind of funding for companies to work with universities and get a recent graduate working on a specific project, and we're quite successful in how we collaborate with companies around this. We have one interesting one running at the moment around Industry 4 and manufacturing equipment and being able to gather data from those machines in the field to enable the machine builder to understand how their machines are being used and utilized by their customers and the potential insights that will give. And it's creating kind of dashboards then that will highlight productivity or downtime and things like that as well. So just to kind of wrap up, really, we just to reiterate, we want to engage with more companies. We want to understand what those challenges are, to work together to create opportunities for our students, but also to have our students working on problems that are relevant for industry, so that when they leave, they've got a career that they're engaged in and will be fulfilling, but also that they're leaving with the skill sets then that will help the companies that they ultimately work for. So, so thank you for your time. I'm happy to take some questions, but also I'll put my email address in the chat as well, so that anyone can contact me directly. So thank you very much.
Hi, Carl. I think there is a question in the chat there from Heather. is your work at the university level, or do you have any chance to collaborate to influence the curriculum in schools, etc.?
It's a good question, and so we have colleagues working on kind of outreach and widening participation who go into colleges in the region. One, to talk about what it's like to study at the university, the opportunities, but also we've been setting kind of design slams and challenges where we're working with some of our industry partners just to set kind of short kind of design challenges for the students to get involved in and engaged in, and you know, helping them understand maybe some kind of sketching tools like Autodesk Sketchdesk, is it? So there is that element of trying to engage with schools more. Whether we can influence curriculum in the schools, not quite at that level, but definitely want to engage more with them. And there's a number of activities in that sense. So there's one through the Industrial Advisory Board, but there's another organization that we're working closely with called Gambika, and we've set up a university industry council with Gambika. And one of the areas that we're focusing on that as well is that reach into schools and getting in contact with schools at kind of year 7, year 8, before some of those students are deciding on the options that they'll take for GCSE. But also not just the students, you need to engage with the parents as well, and the actual teachers in those schools, and offering support in that way. So I think we're open to discussing how we can help with the curriculum in schools. So I hope that answers the question.
I think so. We haven't. Yeah, absolutely. Looks like it. Great stuff. Thanks, Carl.
No worries. So,
are we moving? Are we moving on now?
Over to Claire? Or?
Hello, everyone. So I shall attempt to share my screen. Can everyone see that, or is it presenter view?
No, it looks good. There just seems to be a bar across the top.
I'm hoping that will disappear.
Still there, but
there we go.
It's gone now.
Cool. I'm usually used to Teams, not Zoom. So hello everyone, my name's Claire Scott. I'm an industrial digital technology advisor with Made Smarter, and I work with businesses to help identify what technology that they can adopt in order to improve their business, which is what Made Smarter is all about. We want to help businesses keep their competitive edge. Made Smarter came about from back in 2016, 2017. There was a large group of businesses worked together with the UK government, and they produced the Made Smarter review, which identified barriers to that businesses face in adopting Industry 4 technology, because we were far behind our fellow countries in terms of technology adoption. So those barriers that were identified was that businesses, they either don't have the time to adopt new technology, they don't have a strategy, or their lack of planning to adopt this new technology, or they struggle to access some of the innovation that Carl was talking about. Not only that, but they didn't understand the technology and the impacts to their business. And when they were looking for the partners to actually help give them the understanding, it was either biased technology or the partners weren't right for them. If they did adopt new technology, well, they didn't actually have the skills to actually use the technology efficiently. So that was another barrier, as well as building the business case. So it was an unclear economic benefit for businesses. So those are all the barriers to digital technology adoption that were identified. And to overcome these barriers, the Made Smarter Northwest Adoption Pilot was put together about 2 years ago. And it was to provide support to SMEs. It's been going for 2 years now, and it's starting to get rolled out into other regions, and we've been extended. We're now no longer a pilot, so we provide impartial advice to SMEs. You can get support from specialists such as myself in the technology that you're looking to adopt. We have specialists in the different technologies. If you're struggling to kind of figure out which technology you wanted to adopt, or need to focus on building your digital strategy, or the digital element of your business strategy, we put together a digital transformation workshop that helps you identify the challenges, and we provide some potential opportunities. We also offer funded training course to develop leadership skills. So we help support with leadership and workforce development. And we also offer funding for digital technology internships, where we can actually support identifying some of the good students that are there at MMU, and we've certainly placed a lot of students with businesses to help support their technology adoption project. And finally, we offer up to 50% grant funding to SMEs that are looking to adopt suitable technology. So if you are interested in gaining that support, please do register at the website there, madesmarter.uk. I've talked about digital technologies, I know Carl touched on them, but what technologies do we focus on as a, sorry, not that, that's my next slide. As I said, we've had a technology pilot, and we've had the results through from that. From the survey that the evaluation that that's been carried out, manufacturers are showing these results. So through the support they've had with Made Smarter, they've been able to increase their productivity. Over about 84% of them have said that. They're able to better engage with digital supply chains and increase their exports, and more importantly, be able to reduce their carbon emissions, which is going to be quite an important thing in the next few years for all of us, and there is a lot more focus on reducing carbon emissions and combating climate change. And that's through digital technology, which covers these areas here. So the first one that we support, and that's my specialism, is additive manufacturing, so building parts layer by layer. And you then have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analytics. So this is where we get the algorithms to get the computers to pull out patterns in the data, and machine learning could be actually having automated computer vision for automated visual inspection as a go, no-go. Check. We also then have augmented reality and virtual reality. And some of the applications that we see for augmented reality is digitized work instructions or remote expert, where you can have an operator on the shop floor, machine's gone down, and you have an expert then remote in and assess the machine and help the operator fix the problem. For virtual reality, it's a complete virtual world, whereas augmented reality is overlaying data onto the real world. Virtual reality can help assist in factory planning, for example. So instead of having a CAD setup and you're seeing it on a computer screen, you can take your CAD data, move it into virtual reality, and you can actually place yourself in your new factory, and you can then move around your CNC machines and plan. Instead of plan out your factory layout, you can get your operators in and get their feedback, and it means that you're not having to make costly investment only to find out that you've put a CNC machine in the wrong place, or an operator can't access a certain area. So that's some of the applications that we see for virtual reality. We've then got the industrial Internet of Things, which is connected machinery that Carl's touched on, and we're seeing quite a big demand in that. And finally, robotics and process control automation. So automating repetitive tasks that you don't want humans to be doing, because you'd rather get them doing more value-added tasks. So those are the 5 areas that Made Smarter cover. It's all well and good knowing what technology you might want to adopt, but are you actually ready to adopt the technology? And so this is part of what we help businesses identify through digital transformation workshops, using digital readiness level assessment. Now this comes from a publicly available specification, 1040, and it follows a similar framework to other readiness level methods. So for those who's familiar with technology readiness level or manufacturing capability readiness level, it follows that 1 to 9 scale. But instead of technology or manufacturing capability, it's all about are you ready to adopt digital technology, not only internally, but how is the digital technology actually affecting external business processes? How are you communicating with your customers and your suppliers? And it's here to help you as a tool for assessment and ultimately adoption of technology. And as I say, we use this as part of the digital transformation workshop. Our specialists will assess. There is also an online tool if you'd rather go and use the online tool. But it's a set of 30 questions that you can use. But I've said it's a scale from 1 to 9. So have a think, see where you are on the scale, with 1 being no digital technology adoption and 9 everything's digital, and see where you are. And please feel free to pop it into the chat as well. I'll go through the 9 levels and let's see if your answers change once I've gone through the 9 levels. So like I said, DRL1. A business at DRL1 has no strategy with digital elements, and the people within the business are not aware of the benefits that digital technology can offer them. So that's where a business at DRL1 would sit. At DRL2, the workforce is actually starting to investigate the technology. So this is where maybe one or two of the operators are having a look to see what kind of technology can actually help them. It could be, you need to start investigating and identifying which kind of technology is going to be of benefit. And so businesses at DRL2, this is perhaps where they might start to engage with Made Smarter and other areas. So we regularly work with MMU and Print City. So if a business comes to us and says, "Well, I'm looking to adopt additive," we'll tend to work with Print City and help them, help the business investigate additive manufacturing. At DRL3, you're getting into tech trials. So the work is going up the scale. We're actually starting to investigate the business case, putting that together, and actually identifying applications for this technology, and seeing if it's actually going to give us the benefit. Once those technology trials are over, we're at DRL4. That's when we go and just modify our business strategy, make sure we have digital elements to it, and the senior leaders are all agreed on the business case, and it all gets signed off, and there's budget. So once we're at DRL4, we've adopted one digital technology. At DRL5, we're starting to see the benefits. So make sure, go back, review, and see if the technology is actually starting to pay the benefits. And you should see the results on the bottom line. And the business is starting to become more profitable, which is good, because at DRL6, you're starting to drive continuous improvement. You're reinvesting those profits back into the business and adopting more digital technologies. And you're having continuous improvement at DRL6. So those are all internal applications of digital technology, but SMEs could be quite complex, and you've got suppliers, you've got customers. How are you going to help your suppliers and your customers engage with you now that your digital technology is part of your business culture at DRL7? You need to start then making plans on how you integrate external parties, and that's where you achieve DRL 8 and 9, increased adoption of digital technologies. And at number 9, as I say, it's driving productivity for everyone. Sorry. So driving productivity for everyone. So that's at DRL 9. If you know you're ready to adopt digital technology, where is the first place to start? So as a business, you need to have a look at your processes and your operations. But if you are still putting things on paper and all your data is analog, first step is always digitization. So you need to digitize your data. So for manufacturers and designers producing parts, 2D sketches are good, but for additive manufacturing, you actually need to have a 3D model. So you need to digitize and produce 3D models in order for you to be able to produce it using additive manufacturing. I have been to businesses where they are still writing down on notebooks, storing those notebooks with all their process data. You can't do anything with the data if it's in a book, or there's a lot of business, there's a lot of work in order to be able to analyze that data. So that's the first step, digitization. What comes next then is you can focus on the process, which is digitalization. So changing the actual process from analog to digital. And then finally, we have then the digital transformation, which is then looking at your entire business, creating a plan and having that coordinated. So we encourage businesses to take the first step, you know, be it digitization or if they've done that in the digitalization space, and that is how we help businesses at Made Smarter. So I can see there's a couple of questions popping up. So Heather, in terms of, so Heather's written, are we finding age, sex, culture of a business leader in any way affects their willingness to adopt innovative technologies? I think the culture is very important. If we have dealt with quite traditional manufacturing businesses, and yes, culture is one of the key elements of any adoption strategy. That's why we've got the leadership and development program, where you've got the opportunity to put senior SME leaders on a course to help develop those leadership skills that they need to be able to adopt digital technology, and that then helps to try and change that culture. So does that answer your question, Heather, in a roundabout way? Are there any other questions, or are there any points that you'd like me to expand upon before I hand over to Mark?
I think that was great, Claire.
Thank you.
One of the, I suppose, the student placement, was that?
Oh,
something to?
yes. Sorry. So I rattled through that very, very quickly. Sorry. So as part of Made Smarter's offering, and we offer the fully funded student placements. Now this is approximately a 3-month placement that businesses can receive. We usually find that it's around that lower DRL level stage. So if we've had student placements, you know, wanting to help trial technology, and we found it's a really, really useful tool to allow businesses to carry out those technology trials. And I think, I don't know the numbers, but last month yeah. No, I'm not going to quote the numbers off the top of my head, but it's it's certainly been of benefit to businesses. And I know that from the industrial digitalization course and the work that we've done with Print City, it's been invaluable, to be honest, because they're the business. It's all about the technology, the knowledge transfer. So businesses who are lacking those digital skills can receive the 3-month placement with a student who has the skills to be able to transfer that into the business. And many of our interns have gone on then to actually secure jobs at those businesses.
It's been, yeah, I think it's been good. I think at the start, once we kind of had the conversations as well and worked together a bit more around the different levels of students that we have and what expectation you can have from a second year or a master's student has probably helped. And the fact that the placement is flexible has worked really well for the master's students. So it's not just 3 months in one block, as it can be done, a day a week or that kind of thing. So
it's got to be good for both business and student. It can also be a recent graduate as well. And some of these projects could lead on to longer term things, especially when we're dealing more with something that's like an innovation project. So touching on the technology transfer partnerships, which I know that I've had discussions with clients about, but it's all that starting point. It could potentially be the student.
Thanks, Claire.
Is there anything else?
I can't see anything else in the chat. Over to you, Mark, then, I guess.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah, cheers, Carl. Let me just share my screen. I've noticed that a couple of people have just entered and a couple of people have left as well. So obviously, if you've left, hopefully you're watching the recording and you're still catching up on this. If you've just joined, we've just a little recap. We've had Carl Diver from Manchester Metropolitan University, who is our Industry 4 lead. Talking about different opportunities in which you can access the university and discuss Industry 4 technologies through our different programs, one of which I will be going through now, which is called Print City Network. Then we had Claire Scott from Made Smarter talking about the Made Smarter program and how businesses can engage that to receive support in terms of adopting Industry 4 technologies and digital transformation. So yeah, now it's my time to speak. Last but not least, so my name is Mark Chester. I'm Product Development Specialist at MMU Print City, and I'll tell you a little bit about Print City just shortly. My background was actually a product designer, went out into the field, actually then studied the MSc in Industrial Digitalization at Print City, and 2 years down the line now, I've been helping businesses to adopt additive manufacturing within their business, first as Innovation Development Manager and now Product Development Specialist on the Print City Network program as well. So yeah, welcome if you are just joining us. So a little bit of an introduction to Print City. So yeah, we are part of Manchester Metropolitan University. So we are housed within science and engineering faculty. We obviously have lots of different faculties across the university, whether it be the Fashion Institute, whether it be health and social care. We're housed within science and engineering. We actually started back in 2018, so quite early, quite early in our development. We actually started from, all universities have additive manufacturing or 3D printing, but they normally have 3D printers in silos. So you don't necessarily have students accessing the equipment. You can't really necessarily get hands-on with the equipment, and nobody knows really necessarily where all the different pieces of equipment were. So previously, we were a company called Hobbs 3D that had some fantastic pieces of kit, but they shows that it was not a viable proposition to move forward with Hobbs. So Hobbs closed down. and hence Print City was born. So we took lots of different pieces of equipment from the different parts of the university, brought it into our own facility. We started with 2 members of staff. We've now grown up to 23, which is some rapid growth over the last sort of 3 years or so. And we have a wonderful facility full of additive manufacturing equipment, which both our students, our academics, and I suppose our companies and the general public can access, which is really fantastic. So we are hopefully kind of a bit of a one-of-a-kind space in this place. We're currently located at Turing House, which is just off Princess Road there. We are hosting some client visits, but obviously COVID restrictions are in place depending. So just if you are looking to visit, we'll have to put something together as whatnot. But yeah, like I said, we are Print City. We are home to a wide variety of additive manufacturing pieces of kit, which I'll go through in a second. But we are wider than that as well. With a name like Print City, we don't want to just be shoehorned into the fact that we are just 3D printing. We also do look at everything that goes, the kind of whole ecosystem behind that as well. So whether that be CAD, 3D scanning, some of the industry forward technologies that we've spoken about before as well. We're kind of a little bit more wide on that as well. So yeah, just I gave a little bit of a brief history, but just going to kind of recap, you know, why Print City started and why we've tried to be a little bit different in this space is, if you were on the call previously, you'll have heard Claire talking about the Made Smarter review, which was conducted in 2017. And off the back of that review and some other pieces of reviews, such documentations, such as Autodesk Future of Making Things, we saw a real opportunity to create this space where we can bridge the gap between industry and education in terms of getting, you know, really hands-on experience with printers and, you know, developing the kind of skill set that our students have within the space as well. So off the back of that, we developed this course in MSc Industrial Digitalization. We created this space and we launched in 2018. And now at the present, like I say, we're 23 members of staff and growing. We have a wide range of research projects going on. And we are starting to be recognized within the field, within additive manufacturing, as quite a trailblazer, I suppose, in terms of we've got some fantastic partnerships with very well recognized additive manufacturing companies such as Markforged, Formabs, and we're starting to teach other institutions around the world about how we can build next generation additive manufacturing centers, which is really fantastic. So definitely watch this space and watch this growth. So for us at Print City, we have 4 pillars of delivery, or 4 key kind of cornerstones, I suppose, to our service and to we're not necessarily a business per se, but to our ethos. So sort of 4 areas that we focus on. Predominantly is education. So, you know, we are a service for the university in terms of we cater to our student needs and our academic needs. So education always has to be at the kind of the core of what we do. Like I say, we do have our MSc Industrial Digitalization, which has been running for, it's in its 3rd year now, which has just been going from strength to strength. We also then teach on undergraduate courses as well. So when you think about additive manufacturing, you think about 3D printing, you do think about engineers and manufacturing, but what we try and do as well is we try and not necessarily pigeonhole ourselves into this kind of sector. We also start looking at, well, how can we teach additive manufacturing and, you know, digital transformation into other undergraduate courses as well. So we're currently teaching in 16 undergraduate courses. That's including things like photography, chemistry, fashion, you know, art. We're actually developing a course at the moment on biomedicine as well, looking at biomimicry and whatnot. So there's some really fantastic opportunities that are actually starting to come to light. And we really kind of want to be at the forefront of that and just show that, you know, additive manufacturing isn't necessarily just for one particular area. There's lots of different things. But at the same time, it's not necessarily the everything. You know, we're not going to 3D print everything. There's definitely different areas where it's definitely suited better. To go alongside that as well, we are obviously we're focused on research, so we have 6 research projects going on at the moment, and then we also do have our own research internally as well in terms of creating academic papers, whether or not it is creating our own materials or developing, creating our own materials or developing our own our own novel research internally as well. I can't necessarily divulge too much of that, but we've got some really interesting things going. So we do obviously want to try and push the boundaries of what this tech can do as well. Going on from that as well, we have knowledge exchange, which is we call it knowledge exchange within the university, but realistically it is our commercial service. So it's how we work with companies outside of the university, and that can be locally within the Greater Manchester area, or it can be, nationally. We obviously work with some fantastic companies outside Greater Manchester as well. So not necessarily just defined within this area. And we have worked internationally as well with some fantastic partners there as well. So if you are looking to, work with us and you are outside of Greater Manchester, there's always the kind of knowledge exchange or commercial aspect of Print City that you're more than welcome to access as well. And then the last thing we have is our outreach as well. So within our outreach, and I believe Heather on call was talking about, outreach before, so this kind of feeds in quite nicely into this. But yeah, outreach is really important for us in terms of, how do we outreach to the local community, but also how do we outreach to local education as well there as well. So we're predominantly high school, not necessarily primary school, but what we try and do with high school students is we try to get them in and go around to different technologies, try and wow them with, what is possible. We teach them basic computer-aided design software, so we use Fusion 360. Carl was saying before, we do some design challenges, which is really great. We give they go from not having any skills to within 2 hours start designing something like a trophy that you can see on screen there, which is fantastic. And they start to embed their own learning into that as well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And what we're trying to do there as well is just not necessarily show that university is just a place for one particular type of person, or is really boring. We're trying to make sure that it's exciting, so the next generation of individuals and high school students can come and be like, well, actually, university is really accessible. It is actually accessible for me, and these are the kind of cool things that I can be doing, or manufacturing, or designing in the future as well. So we have our outreach there, which is really important to us. It's been kind of taken on a bit of a backburn just through COVID, unfortunately, but we like to obviously try and start getting this sort of back up as kind of COVID restrictions sort of go down, if it does. And then on the same side of that as well, we obviously helped in terms of the COVID pandemic, in terms of helping our local NHS trusts in terms of producing PPE. So there's, like I say, there's lots of different facets to Print City. What we try to do though, and this is not necessarily a unique offering in terms of universities, lots of different universities offer this, but what we try to do and where we try to be unique is that all these different areas start to feed into each other, so that our educational aspects start to feed into our knowledge exchange, whether it be a student placement, or our research starts to go into our commercial projects that are going on, and vice versa. So we try and feed everything together, and it starts to inform different areas within these different sort of sectors there. Just quickly, and I probably could do an hour or two just off the cuff on additive manufacturing, but I'm not going to. For those that are maybe new to additive manufacturing, it's still a relatively new technology in comparison to some of the other manufacturing technologies out there. But if you're new to additive manufacturing, basically it's the process of building parts, mostly layer by layer. We've got a really basic technology on screen here at the moment. So what we do is we start with a 3D model that we develop onto a computer, and we might use some sort of computer-aided design software to create that. From that, we will go into an STL file, which is basically a mesh file, which kind of turns it into a language that we can then slice. So we take this 3D model, we slice it into lots of different cross sections, and we create a toolpath from that. So the toolpath then tells the 3D printer what to do, which then creates the object. So on the right here, you can see an image of what we call either fused deposition modeling or fused filament fabrication 3D printing process. This printer is absolutely going crazy. It does not print that quickly in real life, unfortunately. I wish it did. But as you can see here, well, I think that Carl's got his fingers crossed there. I saw that. But yeah, what you can see here is that all the different cross sections here. Basically, that print head is extruding polymer onto the build platform, and it's creating one cross section at a time. So it will lay one cross section down onto the build platform there. The build platform will lower, and it'll start to build like so. So that's a really basic overview, and there's about 7 subcategories. There's like 40 odd different technologies which continue to grow. So it's an ever-changing landscape, which we kind of got to try and keep our finger on the pulse on as best we can. So yeah, like I say, lots of different technologies. I'm not going to necessarily go into too much detail on all the different ones, but the different 3D printing processes have different strengths and weaknesses. They have different materials in some cases as well. So like we say, at Print City, we have about 65 printers and growing, although we just received about 11 more 2 weeks ago. And we have some more coming hopefully in September time as well. So this will continue to grow. What we try to do is trying to make this equipment as accessible as possible in terms of, you know, we go from sort of basic printers that might cost a couple of £1,000 or less to up to, you know, machines that cost up to £100,000. So, you know, we want to make it sure that it's accessible for both, you know, students coming in, but also for commercial companies coming in as well. So we have kind of more basic polymer printers like fused filament fabrication that can do basic form, fit, function prototypes. We've got stereophotography there that can do your more kind of high precision and high quality finish parts there as well. We've got some more large format printing, got some composite and metal printing there. And we did, but unfortunately I think it's down at the moment, we had some binder jet in there as well, but this will continue to evolve as the different technologies evolve there as well. So yeah, if you are interested in additive manufacturing and you want to learn more about these different technologies, obviously not going to go into too much detail now, but if you are, you know, if it's something you're really interested about or getting into, please feel free to, well, get in touch with me, or see if you want to come across over to Print City. We can try and arrange a visit, COVID restrictions permitting, of course. So yeah, in terms of capabilities, I've kind of run through it, but we obviously offer this kind of whole ecosystem around additive manufacturing there. So at our core, we are focusing on 3D printing, additive manufacturing in different capacities there, but we also do then focus on different digital technologies, some of which we've gone through previously on the presentation there. One of them which being augmented or virtual reality. So we've got one of our industrial digitalization students there who within a day learned how to create their own VR environment, which is fantastic. So he's just exploring a house that he built in VR, which is incredible. We also have, you know, 3D scanning facilities and a whole kind of ecosystem in terms of, you know, creating digital CAD files, using different data sets, whether it be something like an MRI scan if we're going into kind of medical, or using, you know, 2D drawings, etc. And then we also have the kind of the design side of things as well. So, you know, for different manufacturing processes out there, we obviously have to design for that manufacturing process. Additive manufacturing is no different. So we obviously have a service in terms of designing parts for additive manufacturing to optimize them. Then we also have optimization pieces of software as well, such as shape topology, but also things like generative design, where we can start to build in artificial intelligence and machine learning into this kind of and basically getting the computer to inform us about what sort of designs we should be making there. So we've got an example of generative design on the right hand side there, creating this really organic structure, which all feeds into sort of industry 4 there, I suppose. So yeah, we work with lots of different people. We really try and make sure that we're kind of diverse in this area, that we're not just focusing on engineering, I suppose. A lot of 3D printing companies out there, you'll see brackets and all that sort of thing. Probably not, it obviously is interesting, but we like to try and diversify ourselves as best we can. So we work with fashion and textiles companies. We've had some rather large ones in, which has been absolutely fantastic. We've got an example on the left-hand side there of a student called Sophie Barnaby that was in London Fashion Week, who 3D printed parts of this dress, which is fantastic. We work with our colleagues in health and social care as well to create prototypes. So this is a prototype for a device that can detect sepsis, called SepSense, which is fantastic. We work with fine artists and artists. So we worked recently with an artist called Brendan Dawes, who's produced this fantastic piece of art, which we obviously 3D printed for him. He actually used the generative algorithm from the Apollo 11 transcripts to actually create this wonderful piece of fine art. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. If you'd like to learn more about that, obviously visit Brendan Dawes' website. Dawes is spelled D-A-W-E-S. So yeah, absolutely love that. And then, on the flip side of this, we obviously have science and engineering, which is our faculty. So we help them in terms of developing stuff for their motor student, program, for their chemistry department. I think this is actually for their bioengineering department. We helped them to print some test tube racks, which was bespoke for the little test tubes that they were creating. So yeah, work with a variety of different people, and I think that's one of the messages for us is, with Industry 4 and with Print City, I suppose, here is that we are really open to trying to drive digital transformation in lots of different sectors. It doesn't necessarily just have to be manufacturing in that sense. I have to touch on it because we've spoken about it quite a lot, but we do have our MSc in industrial digitalization that goes through, additive manufacturing, Industry 4 technologies. It is full-time, but if you might have people within your own company that you might want them to go out and do MSc potentially, or you might know people that might be interested in this area. It's a fantastic opportunity, which is just kind of going from strength to strength. The actual really nice thing from this MSc as well is that we've had lots of, in the first cohorts, we've had people not just from a science and engineering background, but from arts degrees, etc. So in the first cohort, we had somebody from our business school who focused on business. We had a student from animation. We had a student from textiles. So it's a real sort of, I suppose, melting pot in a sense, in terms of all these different sectors kind of coming together in this one course, which is really fantastic for us. The really success for us on this course as well is that we had a 50-50 split in terms of female male on the first year, which is fantastic. And on the second year, we had a 60-40 split as well. So we are really trying to drive, through that. This isn't just, we're just really trying to drive through diversity, I suppose, within this sector, which is really fantastic. So yeah, in terms of, we've gone through education. One of our other pillars is research. That we have 6 projects going on at the moment. One's just starting up called EcoEye, so hence why you can only see 5 on screen. Our research projects are funded by external bodies, so 4 of them are funded by Interreg and 1 of them is funded by ERDF. So I think it's about £15 million worth of funding that we've got received in the last sort of couple of years, which is absolutely fantastic. Really driven our growth. In terms of these different projects, we have Transform CE, which is looking at taking waste plastic and single use plastic, waste plastic basically, and repurposing it into feedstock for either filament 3D printers or for injection molding there as well. So looking at how we can take that sort of plastic and reuse it, which is fantastic. We are looking for companies to really showcase what we can do with some of our 3D printed filament as well. So if you're interested, please feel free to get in touch on that. We have Bioplastics, which is looking at sort of the standards for bioplastics within Europe. We have Share Repair, which is looking at how we can use additive manufacturing to repair domestic household electrical appliances. Like I say, through using additive manufacturing to create spare parts, etc., which is a fantastic project. We have CertMap, which is looking at recycling, basically recycling building supplies. So we obviously get a lot of rubble and waste on building sites. So how can we repurpose that into recycled fine aggregate, which we can then 3D print, use a feedstock for concrete 3D printing. And we can potentially, well, on that project, we're looking at 3D printing furniture, but obviously the applications for that is potentially in the future that you can 3D print houses, etc. And then the last one that I'm going to go through very shortly is Print City Network there as well, which we're looking at basically companies adopting additive manufacturing to produce new products, services, and processes within their company or to the market there as well. I'm seeing some questions coming up. I can't necessarily see them. What I will do is I will answer them at the end if there is some, but yeah.
It's just me adding some of the links. Like
oh, perfect. So, sorry,
and
I keep on seeing it coming up, so I was like, I just wanted to, yeah, perfect. Thank you, Carl. Perfect.
There is one question from Heather though, so do go back to the chat afterwards.
I will do, yeah, thank you. I will answer questions at the end. I think we'll have quite a bit of plenty of time. So yeah, in terms of companies accessing Print City, and it's something kind of that Claire mentioned in her presentation. There does tend to be barriers in terms of companies accessing our services or looking to digital transform. It's obviously a big undertaking, and we've had companies coming in the past and these sort of stories about it's finding it difficult to transform because of these different sort of things. So one of the things that we do find is time. Companies are really busy, just either trying to keep up their production schedules, etc., or just trying to manage their business. It is really difficult. So just one, finding the time. Two, especially with additive manufacturing as well, is they might have had some bad previous experience with 3D printing. I'll hold my hands up there that I've seen some absolutely terrible 3D prints in the past, and this technology has continued to get better and better. So they might 5 years ago they might have had bad experience, or even 10 years ago they might have had bad experience with 3D printing because they thought it was a new thing. Fantastic. They might have wasted a lot of money on 3D printing back then, and not necessarily seeing the results from it. So we get a lot of companies coming in and say, previous experience, we bought a 3D printer, we bought a £300 printer, and it's not really doing what we want it to do. Well, for one, you bought a £300 printer, what do you expect? But two, definitely worth giving it a chance and seeing how this technology progresses over time. One thing that we've definitely touched on throughout the presentations, and it's kind of been key, is our education aspect. So, a lot of companies that we talk to don't necessarily have, I suppose, the resources in terms of actually having a 3D printer or having sort of the digital transformation resources, but then also not necessarily having the staff skill set as well. So they might have like a CAD engineer that's done it in a particular way for a certain amount of time, and is absolutely maxed out, can't necessarily learn new skills, etc. So yeah, one thing we've definitely tried to focus on is obviously our education requirements, and obviously things like the Made Smarter student placement as well. I think one thing as well is kind of the culture within your business that we've found is, some companies that are really thrived and started to look at digital transformation have this kind of better mindset and culture in terms of willingness to change. We're definitely not here to say that, additive manufacturing, all these different technologies that we've spoken about today, is going to absolutely emphatically change your life, but one of them definitely might be. So it's just that openness and that willingness to try new things and kind of explore different avenues as well. We've definitely seen that companies that are more willing to kind of do that have been a lot more sort of successful, because, you know, we've had companies that come in and they've done a specific process for, you know, 20 years, 25 years, and they are the absolute sort of leaders in that field because they've done this in a particular way for that amount of time. They've got a lot of experience with it, and they want to continue doing that in a set way, because why change a formula that works, which is absolutely fine. There might be other opportunities where we can obviously help to sort of transform this and take this sort of further there as well. And I think the last thing as well is just that ambition and sort of the project scale, in terms of, we have a lot of companies that come in and are like, oh, we want to do this, that, and the other, because they've kind of flicked the switch and like, oh, Industry 4, we need to be. It's not necessarily quite as simple as that. It definitely takes steps. So what we try and do is sort of break that down into smaller chunks and try to kind of work our way up to this kind of really kind of futuristic manufacturing space, what you can see on the right hand side there. You know, we're not going to go from 0 to 100 right away. So it's just been realistic about sort of timeframes and how we can get to the sort of the end goal there as well. So yeah, talking a lot about additive manufacturing, I suppose that's why, you know, Prince City, hence why we are. But for us, you know, additive manufacturing for a lot of companies is a great route to actually start about talking about Industry 4 technologies. So, you know, we might have companies that come in, well, we have had companies that come in which have had 2D drawings, which is absolutely fine. You know, there's obviously nothing wrong with that, but they might have, you know, these sort of hard copies scattered everywhere, find it really difficult to find things, etc., find this documentation. So for us, when we start talking about, you know, 3D printing and, you know, how this kind of whole ecosystem, there's a lot of different steps that we have to do before kind of just getting straight to obviously just 3D printing. So if you do have 2D drawings, absolutely great, but we would have to obviously start looking, okay, well, how can we take these 2D drawings and maybe take them into a computer-aided design software and start making them sort of 3D/digital. We might also start looking at computer-aided manufacturing as well, and how we can start working with the software to control different machines. So we've got like kind of connectivity. We can then also start looking, well, in the software or in different softwares, we can start looking at things like simulation, which is, again, one of the kind of core pillars of Industry 4 there, is simulating different products and how they're going to function. We can also start looking at the product life cycle management there as well. And then well, and actually within the software there as well, we can take it a step further and we can start looking at things like augmented reality and virtual reality as well. So, you know, within these sort of steps, you've got a lot of things that are obviously Industry 4 related, which is fantastic. We can then start looking at cloud computing, and we can look at things like we have different file preparation softwares for additive manufacturing that are cloud-based. So we can look at connectivity. We can look at things like localized manufacturing. We can look at, we had a fantastic example that we had, obviously not this year or previously, but in sort of 2 years ago, we had one of our lecturers in San Francisco who was there working away and was sending parts to our machine in Manchester through the cloud and putting prints on, and then watching it in a completely different, obviously, country and time zone, which is absolutely fantastic there as well. So, and then just going obviously from that, like I just said, we've got obviously then the 3D printer itself, so which is an IoT device, and then looking at obviously getting data back from that device, etc. So yeah, this for us, it's, you know, if for companies that are looking to kind of start this journey, it is a really good way of starting to kind of get into this kind of digital transformation / sort of Industry 4 sort of area. One case study that I wanted to focus on today, which is Fabricon Design. They were, well, they're I think about 20 years old. Fabricon, they're based in Ashton-under-Lyne. They offer a design, prototype, and production service, which is great. They typically are using subtractive manufacturing methods, which is great. They're about 15 employees and obviously growing. one thing that they wanted to look into is, again, was additive manufacturing. They actually had a really substantial, well, they had an additive piece of, a 3D printer on site, which is fantastic. It was a really good piece of machine, but they weren't necessarily utilizing it in the best way. So in the first instance, they wanted to see, well, actually, you know, how can we adopt additive manufacturing in a better way? So they used the Made Smarter program and got funded for 2 machines. So they got a Form 3 and a Markform machine. And then they saw a wide opportunity for, obviously, well, we need somebody to actually manage these pieces of equipment, which is fantastic. So Fabricon worked with Made Smarter to put out a student placement opportunity, and they found the right candidate in Luke, which was one of our MSc Industrial Digitalization students. Luke obviously went into the business, got his 3 months experience. He both got hands-on experience in terms of running machines, so he hasn't necessarily had that much experience with running CNC machines and lathes, which is, you know, really amazing for him in terms of his own personal development. But then on the flip side of that, he had his own, we could also start looking at how we can reverse mentor, and actually Luke could start teaching other members within Fabricon about additive manufacturing, about how to run the machines, etc. And then off the back of that, Luke actually got a full-time job with Fabricon as well. So it's a really nice success story of, okay, well, you know, we had a company looking at additive manufacturing. They weren't necessarily adopting it in the best way beforehand. They're now starting to adopt it, use Made Smarter to get some pieces of machinery, and look at actually getting a placement there as well. So they both got the resources and the staff requirements there. And yeah, now they're using the different pieces of additive manufacturing kits to produce jigs and fixtures and do prototyping as well. So yeah, really good success story for us. It's just one of the sort of stories that we've done with Made Smarter. We've actually got 4 students on placement at the moment with Arden Dyes, Arden Software, and Arden Engraving. And we're just looking forward to seeing what our students are doing on their placements as well there. So, like I say, we've obviously gone through different barriers and different pain points for companies accessing it, well, looking to go to Industry 4 and looking to adopt additive manufacturing techniques. So obviously we've talked about time and we've talked about resources. So, you know, one thing that we came up with university and one project that we wanted to try and put together was Print City Network. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that now. So basically, Print City Network is it's a £3.2 million funded project between MMU and ERDF. It actually started last year, but we actually started delivery in April this year. So we had our first cohort last month. We will have another cohort as of September. I'll go through that in a little bit. But yeah, basically this project's going to run for about 2 years. It's 4 companies within the Greater Manchester area. And yeah, basically we're looking for companies that are looking to innovate. They're looking to obviously adopt additive manufacturing if possible. And yeah, looking to really kind of try and thrive within that market. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create this culture around additive manufacturing within the area. And basically what we want to do with the companies is we want them to help to produce new products, new processes and new services, both to their firm, but also to the market there as well. How are we going to do that? Well, we've invested heavily in new pieces of kit, which is state-of-the-art additive manufacturing equipment, and some other pieces of equipment there as well. We also have tailored support with help from the business school as well, about sort of honing your idea and taking it from, you know, just kind of concept stage through to kind of, you know, a fully sort of business plan that you can take forward. And then we also then have our professional expertise and academics in-house in Print City to actually develop the idea further and take it from a concept to reality through to, you know, hopefully implementation within the business. And then from that, we have other areas to sort of take it further, whether it be a student placement or whether it be a KTP, like Carl mentioned. There's lots of different ways in which we can kind of help to take this forward. So yeah, in terms of our support for companies, that are potentially interested in additive manufacturing, they might have an idea about, how they might want to use additive manufacturing. So they might come to with this idea. We then have phase one, which is phase one is basically, we have 14 hours of support, which basically goes through, developing the idea, trying to see if it's commercially viable, doing some market research, etc. And within that sort of first phase, we're really trying to develop that idea further to a point where we then go on to phase two, and we then take the idea concept and we actually start to, we might prototype it, or we might look at creating some sort of process, which actually is something physical that you can actually go through into sort of implementation there. One thing to mention, it is fully funded throughout the project support, which is fantastic for obviously companies accessing the program. But obviously there are sort of limited spaces, so we have about 75 companies that we can offer this support in terms of phase two, but phase one, there's 150 companies that can access that support. So yeah, in terms of phase one, like I say, we're just looking at actually how we can develop that idea, and get it to a point where we're actually ready to sort of start implementing it. So let's look how kind of phase one looks. We've kind of got eight workshops set up, which runs across the course of a month. So it's quite compact in terms of that time commitment. Obviously, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get companies to dedicate a bit of time to kind of help potentially move their business forward. And then in terms of phase two, we then start to look at, okay, well, we'll start to have an initial consultation. We'll work one-to-one with the company. We'll let them define the project that they're looking to do. We'll then go on to prototyping and actually developing the concept. We'll then review it. We go through a couple of cycles in terms of getting that feedback, feeding that back into the prototype, and then go through to actually how we can start implementing these kind of technologies into your company, and then obviously go from there on out. Within that phase two support as well, there we have a sort of some different workshops that we offer in terms of helping companies with the sort of knowledge exchange within computer-aided design, within 3D scanning, within the actual additive manufacturing side of things in terms of their requirements, so what the actual machines are capable of doing, and then going one step further for that as well, we also have a workshop on how we can actually use different materials. So there's lots of different additive manufacturing materials out there as well, and different ways in which we can finish them as well. So yeah, in terms of our service, we're looking at different areas. We have prototyping and product development, whether it is just a new idea that you're trying to get through to market. We have visualization as well there, in terms of just actually creating something visual that you might want to go to an investor to. We might actually be looking at end use parts as well. Last sort of couple of years, additive manufacturing has started to become seen more as potentially a manufacturing method for end production parts. It's not necessarily quite there yet necessarily, but it's starting to develop further. Depends on how many quantities you need, essentially. Use tools and fixtures within the company as well. So actually, how can you make your existing manufacturing processes maybe smarter or easier? So like what we're trying to say here is not, additive manufacturing might be the way forward, but also it might, we're definitely aware that it's not necessarily the end of all manufacturing processes. It has its place within the different manufacturing methods, and actually if it can help supplement or help with other manufacturing methods, then obviously that's absolutely fantastic. So it's just finding it where the best fit is within your company, I suppose, or if it has a fit in your company at all. Spoke about it before as well. We obviously offer this service in terms of design optimization, lightweighting parts, making them more increased in performance, and designing for additive manufacturing there as well. And we also offer the service in terms of 3D scanning, and all kind of other digital technologies there as well, in terms of sort of the virtual reality aspects we talked about previously. So yeah, in terms of the pieces of kit that we have on this program as well, we have obviously the additive manufacturing pieces of equipment, which I won't necessarily bore you with it too much. But you obviously, if you do come onto the program, you'll obviously see them. Sort of quite a wide range of additive manufacturing processes there, which then also feeds into some of our subtractive pieces of kit that we'll be looking to get. So we're looking at CNC machines. I think we're actually a water jet, etc. And then obviously the different technologies that I spoke about in terms of 3D scanning and VR. Then we also have a wide range of different software packages as well that we can help to actually inform these different manufacturing methods or digital technologies there as well. So yeah, just to sum it up, if you are interested in Print City Network, you know, and you are looking to potentially adopt additive or, you know, develop a new product or process or whatever, please feel free to get in touch. If you are interested, please register interest on our website. You can simply just type in Print City Network onto Google, or Carl may have put it in the chat or might be doing it right now. So yeah, thank you, Carl. But yeah, feel free to register interest there. The next cohort will be in September, so we are sort of looking to recruit for that cohort. But yeah, if you are out of Greater Manchester as well, you know, the story doesn't necessarily have to end here. You know, we do have other ways in which you can also work with Print City. So we can go through our commercial service as well. So if you are looking to do that, please feel free to get in touch, and we can help sort of facilitate that as well. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me. I think I went over a little bit, but I think I finished a little bit early, so that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I've still got some good time for question and answers, which is great. And yeah, if you are interested, please feel free to visit our website, or follow us on social media as well. We're across Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So yeah, if you are just looking to see what we're getting up to, or just want to keep following our progress, obviously feel free to go onto them different channels. But yeah, I'll put it out to Q&A really. I think we did have one question, which I'm not necessarily sure what it is, but I'll try and get into the chat. Thank you, Carl, for putting in the links there as well, really helpful. Heather put, have you encountered any resistance from teachers due to possible fears that what you are presenting is beyond their comfort zone or knowledge capabilities? You know what, that's really interesting actually. I think there's definitely been some hesitance with some teachers, but what we tend to find is that the teachers that we're actually kind of outreaching to / they're reaching out to us are typically, you know, really up for sort of digital transformation, and, you know, really kind of want to push them further. So we haven't had necessarily that much resistance, but yeah, it is a good point. I think what we do try to show them within, you know, we're doing these sort of workshops within sort of a space of 2 to 3 hours. So what we do try to show them is actually that, you know, these kind of pieces of equipment that we have, and these kind of technologies we have, are not necessarily as complex as you necessarily might think. So like I said before, you know, within a sort of 1 hour, 2 hour workshop, we can go from no computer aided or 3D modeling experience to actually potentially modeling something, you know, really basic, but something up, which is fantastic. And then actually within that space as well, we can actually start uploading something to a 3D printer, actually 3D printing within the morning. So what we try to do is try to kind of break that down as much as possible. But I think with anything, you're probably going to get some sort of resistance. It's just one of the things, but we try to do as much as we can. So yeah.
If I could say something, I think that's one of my biggest problems, is that there are teachers out there that are very, very keen on what they already know. And there is a difficulty in saying, well, that's what you learnt when you were at university, for example. But things are moving on. And if teachers don't keep up to date with the kind of technologies that you're talking about and that has been talked about, you know, this morning, then those pupils are going to be left behind. And then all of a sudden, you're missing out on a whole lot of people that might very well be very interested in pursuing that as a career, but just don't know about it.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that we do find where, I mean, with primary schools and potentially with secondary schools as well, is that, you know, they don't necessarily have the resources or the budget to obviously potentially buy these kind of different technologies, start talking about it, and or necessarily have the knowledge. So, you know, we do think that our outreach is really quite beneficial in that sense, because they might not have the opportunity to access these different pieces of technologies any other way. So yeah, we definitely think it's a service worthwhile doing. Sorry, Carl. Yeah,
there's an element of that aspect, and I think you touched on it earlier, of some of them are easy to reach. The ones who are engaged are easy to reach. It's the others then that we need to figure out, I suppose, a strategy around that as well. And it's why we're trying to put some of these working groups together with kind of internally and working with industry and looking what that engagement is like, to reach maybe the ones who aren't as engaged, and look at what is the process and procedure that we can put in place to try and, you know, I suppose, lower that barrier. So it's true what we're doing at MMU, but also I think I mentioned some of the work we're doing with Gambika and the other universities involved in that collaboration. It's that question of what are those barriers, and, you know, if we collaborate, what can we do to try and make it more accessible? So, you know, it's a good point, and I think it's something that needs addressing, and we need to find a solution for it. But we'll keep working towards it.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, if you have experience that have, you know, or you do want to reach out more, or you want to continue the conversation, please feel free to reach out to us if it's something you're interested in, because it's something that we're definitely passionate about, and trying to, you know, drive that sort of diversity forward as best we can. As the university is really a passion for us in terms of the university, but also our own personal beliefs within Print City, but also across science and engineering there as well. So yeah, feel free to get in touch.
I think Peter's just put a link in for AI Foundry and Cyber Foundry that I mentioned earlier as well, but the link to all of those SME engagement programs is there. So thanks for putting that up, Peter.
Cool. Well, I think unless there's any other questions, that is it from me. But you know, please feel free to do get in touch, or, you know, feel free to follow some of our social media platforms as well. But yeah, with that, I think I will probably hand back over to Sam, I think.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. And thank you to all of you for a really, really great, really interesting session. Thank you. Now, I am aware that a couple of people joined a little bit later on. So for those that did join later on, never fear. We have recorded it. So if you bear with me, I will download that recording, and I will make sure that we get it onto our YouTube channel, and I'll send it over to you so you can catch up on the bits that you missed. And then we can also send that out to anybody who couldn't make it today for whatever reason. Just a huge thank you from me, really, from Pro Manchester to Mark, to Carl, and to Claire, for that really, really insightful session, and for giving up that time this morning to do this. I'm sure, unless anybody has any objections, if I circulate your contact details alongside the recording, they would welcome any contact from anybody that wants to know a little bit more about anything, or, you know, explore how potentially you could do some more collaborations together, or get involved in some of those wonderful programs. Yep, so that's all from me. It is Friday, so I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of day, and that you have a lovely sunny weekend. It is promised to the weather to pick up over the weekend, so I hope that you all get outside and enjoy that as well. Thank you to everyone. Thanks for attending, and a huge thanks to our speakers.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.